Hi, everybody, and welcome again to another Sports Talk Tech live show. I'm your host, Dwayne, and for this live, we're going to talk about cricket, West Indies, India tour of West Indies, second test match at the Queen's Park Oval. Currently, day three, session two, West Indies trail by 269 runs. And I'm about to get into it, break down what's going on right now, hopefully answer some questions, get your comments, your thoughts about the state of the test match. And if you want to talk any other cricket as well, we can. The Ashes series is also going on over there in England. I think they're at stumps, and they're also trailing Australia, trailing India. But it's all about India, West Indies right now. And if you want to talk Aussies, Ashes series, I'm happy to do it. But we're on day three of the test match, and West Indies probably putting up a little bit of a fight. Let's start by thinking about the state of the wicket. I'm not quite sure what kind of pitch they prepared here at the Queen's Park Oval. I'm somewhat disappointed with it. It's a very slow track. It's offering little to no assistance to the bowlers. In fact, if we just looked at that wonderful ball from Ashwin to get out Captain Brathwaite, he had to drop it right into the footholes. So there's not much turn there, and it's somewhat of a slow track for me as well. I am not particularly liking it, but we can get into that and we'll break it down. But let's talk quickly about the state of the test match where we are. West Indies trailing by 269. India, for me, got off to a very great start in the first 2 days. Maybe we would say it's the Virat Kohli show, and we'll get into that in a second. But the test match starts in an interesting way. So West Indies won the toss, and Captain Brathwaite decided to have a ball. And I'm a bit perplexed by that. I don't know your thoughts, but I don't know why he decided to bowl on a pitch like this. It could be because they are a bit scared. It could be about protecting the team, some preservation. The first match in Dominica, we saw that West Indies were scuttled out in both innings for less than 200 runs. It could be that. There's also the local word on the street there in Trinidad. When you talk to people who watch cricket in Queen's Park Oval, and if you listen to some of the commentators, you definitely get a sense that maybe day two and three are slightly better days for batting. But if you win a toss on a wicket like that, I think you want to go and bat first. That's how I would have thought about it. I think India was happy about that. And yeah, uh, I'm just like switching over a little bit. There's a little bit of shout here. Jadeja just had a fantastic ball here, and I think they're deciding whether or not they should review it. There's about 5 seconds left on the DRS timer right now. I didn't quite catch exactly what happened, but a bunch of the Indian guys went up, and I think did they go for it? I'm not quite sure if they went for it. They may have gone for it, but yeah, once it comes back up, I'll take a chance at looking at it. Thanks for joining me today on the live. It's about cricket. If you want another sport, I'll be happy to do that on another live. Yeah, they did go for this review. Yes, Imran, you're saying something is wrong with Captain Brathwaite. Probably. Let's see. Is this for an LBW? Whew, or is it for a caught behind? I'm not quite sure. I don't think there's any bat on ball right there, right? It's pretty close to the bat, but nothing there. We have to, let's see. Is there, he's gone. There's a little bit of spike, it looked like. But most of the big spike is on the pad. I don't know what's happening here. Yeah, we'll get a. I guess the third umpire will intervene in a second here. I'm trying to see if there's a spike on the ultra edge there. Yeah, yeah, he had to. Yeah, so there's nothing there. So they have lost the decision there. So anyway, back to the cricket. Yeah, maybe something is wrong with him. Maybe it's a protection. I think. Yeah, I guess you're right. They're afraid of players like Ashwin. Obviously, Ashwin, Jadeja, excellent cricketers, but the pitch isn't really offering anything for them, Imran. So I don't necessarily think that was a need for you to bat, second. But whatever, it happens. We end up in a situation where India makes a lot of runs. We could put up the scorecard in a second, but I think Jaiswal and Rohit Sharma had a flyer, and they are off to a good start. 57 for Jaiswal, 80 for the captain. Shubman Gill didn't make any runs, but the man of the hour, I think, and everybody knows the brilliance of Virat Kohli. It's been a while since Kohli scored a century away. I think his last century overseas was 2018. And as they normally say about world class players, form is temporary, and class is like permanent, something of that sort. So we definitely have to think that Virat sets up the innings in some interesting ways. You see, I'm getting a bunch of comments here from Imran. Did you see Guyana Amazon or as captain might be? I actually, I actually looked at it. So are you telling me that they're I don't know. I haven't looked at this yet. I haven't seen the squad. Has the squad been named? I actually haven't looked at it. If there was any updates to the squad, to be honest with you, I have to go check on that. I know I didn't see the Los Angeles Knight Riders get knocked. I actually haven't really watched any of the the cricket here in the United States. I've been just following a lot more sports, and so unfortunately, I'm not on top of that. But yeah, so yeah, we're still at 169 for three right now, and what Alec Athens and Kraigg Black and the vice captain Blackwood are at the crease. So there was some resilience here. Let me just wrap up my thoughts on the first inning. So I thought, India to score 400 and something runs, I thought they did a good job. West Indies didn't bowl particularly well for me. I actually was disappointed in terms of when you have a pitch like this, you have to be in a containment strategy. And I felt like they were giving away too many things early, especially in the first session of day one and day two. Both second sessions of day one and day two, West Indies bowled much better. And eventually, they managed to get the Indians out. 3 wickets there, I believe, for Roach and 3 for Warken. But they toiled in the field. And, that's tough, right? It's super tough there, especially when you put a team into bat first and they score 400 plus runs on you. Then you have to question yourself whether that was the right decision. But I think there's some mitigating circumstances surrounding West Indies and their state of mind, especially after that heavy defeat in Guyana. So yeah, you tell me. But I am here thinking that now that West Indies responded, there is good and bad in the response, right? So I thought yesterday when Chanderpaul and Captain Brathwaite got to the crease, they showed a level of concentration that I liked. So I'm going to say that I want to credit them for trying to stick around and build an innings. However, there are some problems with the way in which these guys were constructing the innings yesterday, in my estimation. So it's all well and good not to is this an LBW here? Sorry, I'm I have the cricket on at the same time. I'm not quite sure if there's a review for something here. I may have missed it. Maybe my producer can tell me. The original decision was not out. Let's see. That's pitching in line, impact in line, and probably missing wicket there. So that's an umpire's call. So I think India will retain the review, but obviously he's not out. So I think Athene is a bit lucky there. Had the umpire given it out, then he would have been walking back to the crease. But anyway, so I thought the way in which the West Indies constructed the innings is not desirable for me. You want to stay there. You don't want to give away your wicket. But the thing that you need to do is you have to score. So I didn't think there was enough movement between the wicket. Yeah. And let me see. For me, I think the guys were rushing to get runs on the board yesterday. So you meant the West Indies guys, you mean, Imran, or you're talking about the Indian guys? Because I felt that Captain Brathwaite and Chanderpaul, while they were there, they could have been running between the wickets a little bit more. And then inexplicably, Chanderpaul gives away his wicket. So far, the West Indies has lost 3 wickets in their first innings. Oh, you mean the India guys? Yeah, I think so. And two of them you have to say the West Indies gave away. So I think Chanderpaul gave away his wicket. There's no question about that. And he should have done better. I don't. There was a rush shot at that point, and that's the thing I was saying. Like if you compare the way uh, in which India bowled in recognizing that there wasn't a lot in the pitch. You have to contain. You bowl maiden overs. You put pressure. You allow batsmen to then sit there and make decisions because they're not making any runs. I think India did a good job of that. West Indies didn't. And had they did that, maybe they wouldn't necessarily have made 400. It could be three something, and it would be a much even contest right now. But West Indies in response fairly okay so far, to be honest with you, because I think most people would have anticipated that the West Indies would have been, scuttled out for nothing. So they've already surpassed the innings that their poor performance from Dominica, 169 here now for three, and a good innings I thought from Captain Brathwaite. A lovely ball from Ashwin to get rid of him. That I have no real complaints. Maybe he could have had a stronger defense, to not allow the ball to go through. But that was a lovely ball from Ashwin. He found something off the surface, actually, where the footholds are, because there's no turn on the surface. And so the Indians are here trying to think about containment as well. So they're thinking about not getting batsmen agitated at some point, and that's where we are. I also thought Mackenzie on debut. I haven't seen much of him. I saw a few. I think I may have watched maybe one or two regional cricket competitions this year where I saw some of him. There's a lot of promise from people from all quarters saying this guy has a lot of talent. Maybe he's also like Athanaze. I think this guy maybe in the West Indies Test cricket setup too early, and that's a challenge for me. I often think that they need a lot more first class cricket, but that's the era we live in. That's where we're struggling as a country to, or a region rather, to produce high quality cricketers that can then go on and produce something of the highest accord. And when you expose these young cricketers, especially in a first class environment in the West Indies that is very short and not as competitive as others around the world, they don't have enough time to hone their skills. I mean, I so wish that we could, send some of these guys to finish in schools like county cricket again, or someplace in Australia, or maybe India to play. But unfortunately, this doesn't work, right? And so, the young man had a few good shots yesterday, a little rash shots here and there, but a little bit of an entertainment for his what was it, like 32? What? How much did he score? Let me check again. It wasn't much. It was 32 runs, right? And so, that shot to get out he gave away his wicket. But I won't, say much about him yet. You don't really want to criticize these young players. They're just coming into the team, and hopefully he can build from here and he learned from that mistake. And so West Indies are down 3 wickets. And right now we have Athanaze and Blackwood at the crease. Blackwood so far, 13 off of 74 balls. I think he's trying to play a game where he's not rushing. There's a shot where he had a free shot there, and in his normal fashion, he probably would have hit it for 6, but he was much more circumspect and got it to the boundary. So I think mentally they're all thinking about, and he has to play a leadership role. He's the vice captain. They're not giving the wicket away, and hopefully running between the wickets, and when the bad balls come, you can capitalize on it. Because if you're the West Indies, your aim here is not to lose this test match. You want to get close to what India made in the first innings. I think that would be a marker of success for me, because we have to temper expectations of where this team is and what they're capable of doing. Let me get a couple of these comments here. I think yeah, that's true. Even Joseph was in county cricket last year. So I really want more of these guys to play, but we all understand how the county cricket setup is. They're not allowing a lot of international players because they want to develop their own players as well. So I get it, right? And many of the players that they're going for are mostly some of these world-class players. So they wouldn't necessarily be going It's not their business to help us to improve our own cricket, if we're being frank with ourselves. But if we can get some players in those places, I think we 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 can improve, right? Because I think we've killed a lot of talent by exposing them to international cricket too early when they're not ready. What else? We must not let players they will when that's true. I don't know. I mean, sometimes there's no chance because you think Mackenzie had to come in. Reefer wasn't playing well. We've been tinkering with the middle order for some time. There's Carl Myers sometime. A couple of series ago, he fell off form. There's a bunch of these guys who aren't been playing well, and we get to the bare bones of exposing young players to international cricket, and I guess that's where we are. Yeah. What else do you have? Let us show India. Yes, we lost the first test in Dominica, but we can show you all. We can put up a better fight. I think we have to really and truly live by that. We have to fight. We don't. This is number one team in the world, even though they're not the Test champions. But this is a top team, and people talk about India's in transition and so on. And they themselves are probably upset for not winning the last two Test championships, losing to New Zealand, then losing to Australia. But it's a unit with a bunch of guys who are at some level. Look at this young kid that comes in, Jaiswal. He's this kind of a kid that I think I have a picture of him somewhere. He came in, and he's basically doing his best, right? He's doing his best to showcase the fate of Indian cricket, but also he's played a lot more Test matches, a lot more first class cricket, and I think he's much more experienced and better for international cricket. And also, he's playing against the West Indies, so they anticipate it's not as good as playing against Australia. Yeah. So we don't know. What else is this? Yeah, you think after the World Cup we would be playing Afghanistan? What would it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, those Afghanistan. I actually, right now, to be honest with you, man, I really don't know. I think we're at a stage of we have to find ourselves again. I don't want to. All the teams that we say we should be beating, we clearly haven't. And look, we haven't learned real lessons. 2019 World Cup, we had to qualify and luckily qualify. And I know I was supposed to be talking about a test match, but we're ranting on a lot of different things. And then we end up in a situation where we had to qualify, and now we are now at a point where we come back into another qualification, and this time we're in a worse situation. Can it get any worse? It probably can. That's the thing. Every time we think it can't get any worse, it can. And unless we really figure it out, and we have to demand better. I've said it in my latest video where I was really upset about the performance. I think as a region, as a diaspora, people who are connected to West Indies cricket, it's part of their responsibility to demand more. They have to want more from it. They have to demand that we play better. We cannot look at the cricket and say, oh, it's the West Indies, they're not playing well. They represent us. The cricket is bigger than just playing. It's an important moment for what we think about as regional integration, but it's important because we're standing on giants that have gone, that have done a lot of things, especially, I say it again and I keep repeating myself, if people who live in the diaspora, especially those who grew up in England, when the West Indies were in their heyday, they felt better when they went to work. They felt like they were human because these guys came there and they were dominant, right? And also when they stand up for things like stand up against things like apartheid and so on, and what it meant, right? I mean, but the cricket is beyond just what's on the field, and that's why I keep saying people have to be in touch and understand what this really means to us as a region. So we'll see, yeah. What else do you have here? Yeah, teams doing better than us. Yeah, Yeah, I think coaching is important, Emma. I don't disagree with that. I think we have to improve our coaching around the board. But I think most of the coaching that we really need, I often think when you think about improvement for coaching, it has to be at the grassroots level. It has to be at the academy levels. We need more academies or whatever you want to call it, schoolboy cricket coaching. You want your best coaches to be at that level because that's where you start to develop the players to be technically sound, to understand the game. And as they start moving up the ladder, then then they'll be better for it. Like to be honest with you, when you get to the international level, when you get to ODI level, Test cricket level, there's limited amount of impact the coach can have to solve any kind of issues you may have as a player. Just limited. You don't spend enough time together. There's not a lot of preparation. So you want your very best players to be, your very best coaches rather to be at the grassroots level. So I agree with you on the coaching. I don't think it really matters who the coach is at test level. It matters to an extent, but it matters less in my estimation. I think we need to develop finer cricketers, better cricketers, and we have to be cognizant of how we do or how we approach that because it's not like we're popping out millions of cricketers every day. This is not India. I I remember when was it? I was in India in 2017, and I was in Kerala, and I was just walking around, and there's tons of kids playing cricket, tons of kids playing cricket there, like everywhere. It's like you're gonna find 50 to 100 of good cricketers that you can get into first class cricket, and then they'll transform themselves into international cricket. Now, when I come to the Caribbean, especially most of the time when I come to the Caribbean, I come and visit my wife's family in Trinidad. I look at the kids, they're not playing cricket. They're all playing PlayStation or Xbox, or they're barely playing anything. Or if they're playing sport, they don't prefer football. And so we have to really get back to that. So I think that part is really important. And what else? You're talking about, we finished last year and only got 100,000 from the ICC. That too, right? So look, don't get me started. You know my thoughts on this already. Cricket is really in a bad place because it's the big three who get all of the money, really. India, Australia, England. And then when it comes to Test cricket, they're the ones who really dominate because of, Ashes series, 5 Test match. They're playing every year with a lot of cricket. So look at Kraigg Brathwaite and Joe Root. I think they started cricket at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. I could check it up. They came into international cricket at the same time. Look at the amount of tests in comparison that a Joe Root has gotten to play versus a Kraigg Brathwaite. We're not playing enough cricket, right? We're playing a 2 Test match series with India. That is nonsense, right? And sometimes people play one-off tests, other nations, and so on. That's not how you're going to develop. How are you going to be competitive? It's already not in your favor already. So when everything isn't working well for you, how are you going to compete with these guys that are making a lot more money, better infrastructure, better everything, and also playing a lot more Test cricket? So their part of that is that we have a problem there, right? So what is it? We're still thanks everyone for joining me. I'm just talking some India West Indies cricket. Athens on 12, Blackwood on 14, 171 for 3. West Indies still trail India by 267 runs. There's not much in this pitch, uh, but let's see. Our Test captain should start going to England when we have. Yeah, I think believe so. I think he had played a little bit too. I know. Who else was in Test cricket recently? Holder had a little stint. Not Test county cricket. Joseph had a stint last year. Alzara Joseph had a stint, I believe. So usually some short stints. What I want to see is also the young guys getting into that thing, right? Because the young guys are the ones who need to develop. If you listen to the likes of Ian Bishop, talk to Walsh Ambrose, all those guys who used to go play county cricket, back in survive. It's not only about going there and getting exposed to other conditions. That is true. You also get exposed to different coaching methods, so on. But what it also does, it's develop you mentally. It develops you to become a much more mature person quickly, because you have to leave your comforts of whatever parts of the region you grew up and then get into a different environment. You travel, you're responsible for yourself, you have to eat different types of foods. You grow up really quickly. And I think part of that maturity then, in the end, ends up on the cricket pitch, right? And I think we need that. How can we circumvent that lack of not playing a lot of international first class cricket? I'm not 100% sure I have the answer to that. Maybe some people can tell us. Maybe it's now we need the likes of South Africa, Sri Lanka, all Afghanistan, all of these teams to just start talking to each other and say, hey, we really need to be working in partnership so we can help develop each other. Maybe that's the answer, because we're far behind the English, Australians, and uh, India, right? And they're not in the business of looking out for us, right? They're not in the business of looking out for us. So maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need a lot more 18 cricket tour. But those things cost money, right? But maybe if we can create a pack, do something that might help to expose cricketers to different things and so on. And then obviously we have to fix the pitches, we have to fix other things, and we have to get people back on board. But if we start to show a product where it represents the West Indies, it looks good, people will probably come back to the stadium, I would hope. Yeah. Well, you're saying, what kind of stuff is this advice? 14 runs over 86 balls. Look, honestly, we all know the type of player Jermaine Blackwood is. I think he's trying to play a game that's not his. And maybe he's just trying to stay there. He doesn't want to give away his wicket, because we know he can go on a rampage. And in fairness to Blackwood, I think in the last few years he's been trying to bat differently. He's in a leadership position. He has to bat. We have a guy with him that's playing in his second test match. This Athens kid, I really like him. I think he has a lot of talent. He's stylish. I believe he can be a very, very good cricketer, but we have to protect him. We have to help him develop into the kind of player. And unfortunately, all of these guys with a lot of talent are coming into a losing team. So they're not coming into a team where they can be molded by people who are very good at what they do. And that's very unfortunate at this time. So the way players like, I suppose, Athens, a Kirk McKenzie will develop is somewhat different from a Brian Lara coming into a West Indies team, or a Curtly Ambrose or a Walsh coming into a West Indies team, and so on. You name those guys. They're coming into teams where they could lean on some seriously experienced players. And not that we don't have experienced players. Our Roach is a seriously experienced bowler. If you're a new bowler coming in, and Gabriel to some extent, but you don't get the same kind of level of coming into a team where your mentor for bowling is Malcolm Marshall, or your batting mentor is Viv Richards, or your batting mentor is Richard Richardson, and so on, right? This is a different type of setup, and so I hope that these young men can do something here. So yeah, we're still trailing by 265 runs. Thank you guys for joining me on this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do a lot of things here. I know that people might come in and pop out because they're expecting a different type of a show, but tonight I'm talking about cricket, going through the second test match. The state of the series depends on it. I don't think only one winner for my liking can be in a match like this. I only think India can probably win this. So West Indies getting a draw. I think if you can not lose the test match, that would be a very, very big win for me. Because you just, after the embarrassment in Dominica, We don't want a similar embarrassment here. And so there's some level of application going on so far. I would say both Tagenarine, Chanderpaul, and Mackenzie gave away the wicket. Captain Brathwaite had a good knock of 75, and he didn't necessarily give away his wicket. Not at all. I thought that ball from Ashwin was something special. And this is a slow pitch, but it's not offering anything to the bowlers. When the likes of Jadeja, the likes of Ashwin can't get anything out of this wicket, then it's not a wicket that is offering anything. I saw that Russell said something, Imran, about, giving up some of his time off globe trotting around the world for T20 to come back to the West Indies team. I'll see it when I believe it when it happens. But also, Russell seems to be very injury prone a lot as well. I don't know. Yeah, speaking of that, I wanted to bring up back Virat Kohli. If we could put up Virat Kohli right here, because Virat Kohli, to me, embodies something that we have to respect. After he scored 122, I believe it was either Darren Ganga, or Samuel Badger who interviewed him. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Immaterial. I think it was Ganga. And we're talking about how his application and what it means to play international cricket. And Virat goes into as if he doesn't even care about that the runs wasn't coming. What he cared most about was the way he knew the runs were going to come. And it wasn't like he was in a terrible patch or something like that. I mean, when a guy scores as many centuries as he has and so many runs in Test cricket, then you expect him to always be scoring centuries all the time. But what Virat said was that he takes his preparation seriously. And that's what the greats always do. We look at greats and think that talent is what they're living on. No, it's not. Application is what makes them a superstar. Virat takes his fitness seriously, his diet, his sleep. He mentioned that in the interview. That's the same for Steve Smith. That's the same for anybody, a Labuschagne, anybody you want to talk about, a Pat Cummins, Jadeja, Ash. These guys take cricket to another level. It's preparation. They're always fit. They're not partying all the time. They recognize even as they start to age, they have to adapt, change, different lifestyle. And some of that stuff we don't need to teach anybody. That stuff is something that if you were going to be a consummate professional, you got to showcase that. You got to deliver. Don't forget to like, guys. I appreciate you on the channel. And I know a bunch of you are watching, so give me a like. And thank you so much for agreeing with me on that. Application, fight. Don't be giving away free runs. There are certain things I often say, look, you got to hold your hands up. There are going to be people better than you at some point in time. When the West Indies are best in the world, by far, you think everybody just roll over and died all the time? That didn't really happen. They tried to fight. So what can you do? Your fitness should never be in question. Your feeling should never be in question. Feeling's not about talent. Feeling's about application. Maybe there's a few feelers where maybe you say born to be talented in something. Every now and again, you get a Keith Arterton, if you're talking about a West Indies, or a Jonty Rhodes, or you name whoever it is. I don't like that shot from Athenaeus there. He was just like flashing again, that similar way Kurt Edwards got out early. I don't like it. But yeah, so you have to showcase certain level of attention to detail. And I don't think many of these guys are doing this. Some of them are overweight, like slightly. Slightly overweight is a big deal in professional sport. Not sleeping well is a big deal in professional sport. So if you're going to have the longevity, and that's why it goes back to what Virat says. Virat says, look, because I take care of myself, I can play in all formats of the game. A lot of these guys aren't willing to go stand for hours in Test cricket. Every time we jump around watching cricket, get excited for T20, it's nonsense. That's not cricket all the time. I don't want to denigrate those games. If you can't deliver on a Test match cricket pitch, they're showing a picture of the great Curtly Ambers right here. Dedication. if you can play test match cricket, you can play any cricket, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The great man right there, Ambrose, gave me many things to smile for when you were a kid, watching the game. I often remember that. What was it, 7-1 against Australia on a warm evening in Perth? Dangerous, dangerous. One of the greatest bowlers to ever step on a test match field, on a cricket pitch. These guys, I mean, I don't know exactly in the dream what exactly the right protocol must be, because nowadays with the sports science, everything is tailored specific to players. Some players need to run more, some need a lot of different things. But what they can be is unfit. They can be unfit, and they gotta be ready. They can't be dropping catches. They can't be not diving. We have to do it. Those are the things that will then get you your form to come back. Because everybody has a purple patch. Everybody has a point where they're not doing well. So what are other things that you can grind out and dig deep for that will enhance your ability to play as a cricketer? And so that's what I'm saying. So the test matches here, the pitch preparation, again, I don't like this. I think they're heading for T right now. It looks like so yeah, T for day 3, 174 runs for 3. Athena's on 13, 45 balls face. Vice captain Jermaine Blackwood on 16, 89 balls. And so far, we've only lost Chanderpaul yesterday to a rash shot of Jadeja. This morning, we also, just before the rains came today, we lost Kirk McKenzie on debut for 32 out of 57. And he looked decent, so he would have been disappointed at the way in which he flashed at that ball. And then we lost the captain after lunch for 75 runs after 235 balls. So the run rate here is pretty slow, I think. What is it? Maybe 2 point something. I have to look at it. But so we're not really scoring. I think the Indians are trying their best to bowl a good line and length and to contain this West Indies bowler. And the likes of a Blackwood is probably trying to play within himself because he doesn't want to get out. And so at this rate, I think West Indies are just trying their best not to lose a test match. And so we still trail by a sizable amount of runs. What would be a good thing after tea? Maybe after tea, if we could bat an entire session without losing a wicket, then that would be great. I don't really know if that can happen. But I think both Blackwood and Jermaine Blackwood and Alec Athena's, I think the first point of call is to try to get this into a 50-run partnership, and then take it from there. Do it in chunks, get into 75-run partnership. But if you can get very close to the Indian first score, then we might be heading into a draw. If West Indies lose wicket cheaply after this, then we might be into some trouble, because I just don't think we have the batting capacity to really hurt the Indians. Even if we have it, the confidence is very low. To be bowled out for 100 and something in both innings in Dominica, coming here, no amount of sports psychology and so on won't just immediately flip a switch and then all of a sudden the West Indies players are back at it again. This is not what's going to happen. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, what you think will happen. What would you like to see after the tea interval here? Do you want to see a change of style? I know Imran early on the live was a bit miffed that the vice captain was batting so slowly, but there's not much in the pitch. So not much in the pitch at all. Apart from that lovely ball from Ashwin to hit the footholds to get the captain out, there's not much there. I don't know why they prepared a pitch like this. I just don't know. Let's see. I think Dean Adrina has a comment right here. He's saying, I'd like to see them be a little more aggressive, put some runs on the board. Yeah, I want to see that too. First, I think Blackwood is a settled man. So I think if anybody will start to to do turnover of runs, then it might be him. But Alec Athanaze also is the kind of guy that doesn't want to sit around and just watch things go by. So I think he will probably want to up the pace as well. So once you get in, maybe you come back after tea, you bat a few more overs, get settled, and then hopefully from there on, you can move into like getting some runs. The Indians are in the field all day, so they'll be tired, right? And we want them to be in the field all day. Obviously, it would be catastrophic if West Indies were to lose 7 wickets in a session, but this is the West Indies anyway, so I wouldn't put it past them. But I don't think it will happen given the state of the pitch. But yeah, interesting test match so far. I think it's not the kind of entertainment you want to see. We saw some good scores from India. A decent score so far of 75 from West Indies captain in reply. Hopefully the likes of Athanaze can get in because he can play some shots. I like him. He's really good. A lot of promise there. And maybe him and Blackwood together can get us, clear past 200 runs. Where are we right now in the runs chase? I see. So we're at 169. I think the first target here is for these two guys to get us to 200 runs. And then maybe at 250, and then we could see where it is. 438 is still a long way. We're still trailing 269, so we'll have to see. But I want to thank everybody for joining me on this live today. I know this is a short live. I wanted to come here and discuss the state of the test match. As you know, on Sports Talk Tech, I do a number of different sports. I got you covered everywhere you think. Sports politics as well. This is a channel for you. This is a place for you to also interact with me. As you can see, if you haven't put anything on the screen or made any comment, if you do, I put it up. I talk about it as long as it's clean. I have a bunch of sports explainers on the channel as well. I do track and field, I do cricket, I do football, I do American football, baseball, you name it. I want to do it for you. And this is the place if you're really into different types of sports. It's a place for you as well if you want to learn about things that you've never thought about with sports or the connection to broader society. This is also a spot for you. So I appreciate everybody for joining me. This is a quick live. I may come back a little bit later. I know there's a Grand Prix going on, a continental tour going on. There's some bunch of preseason football or soccer, depending on where you are in the world. Later on as well, I may check that out, and I definitely will get back to you. I might be live tomorrow for another track and field, and maybe some more cricket. But thanks again for joining me on the channel this evening. I really appreciate everybody, and you stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Watch everything that's there. Thank you. Bye-bye.